Have you ever felt like the world quietly expects you to slow down once you reach a certain age? Like the moment the candles on the cake pass 60 or 70, people start talking about taking it easy, settling down, or just enjoying the rest of your time? But what if that idea is completely wrong? What if some of the strongest, most meaningful years of your life are still unfolding right now? Right now, somewhere in the world, a man in his 70s is learning to paint for the first time. A woman in her 80s is starting a small business from her kitchen table. Another person is finally writing the book they carried inside their heart for decades. The truth is, growth doesn't have an expiration date. Purpose doesn't retire. And the human spirit doesn't weaken simply because the calendar keeps turning. If you've ever wondered whether it's too late to become stronger, wiser, more confident, or more fulfilled, the answer is simple. It's not too late. In fact, this chapter of life may be the most powerful one yet. Today, we're talking about something important: how to grow stronger with age, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Because getting older doesn't mean shrinking your world. It means expanding it in a new way. Let's begin with something many people misunderstand about aging. For most of our lives, we're told that youth is the time for growth. Childhood is for learning. Young adulthood is for building a career. Middle age is for responsibility. And then, after retirement, society quietly suggests that life becomes smaller. But the truth is very different. Many people discover their greatest clarity later in life. They begin to understand what truly matters. They stop chasing approval. They stop worrying about what everyone else thinks. And for the first time in decades, they finally have the freedom to live according to their own values. That freedom is powerful. Think about everything you've already experienced, the challenges you've overcome, the lessons you've learned, the moments that shaped who you are today. Every year you've lived has added another layer of wisdom, another piece of strength. You're not starting from zero. You're starting from experience. And experience is one of the greatest advantages anyone can have. When people talk about self-improvement, they often imagine something meant for younger generations. They picture 20-year-olds reading productivity books, or 30-year-olds building ambitious goals. But self-improvement isn't about age. It's about growth. And growth can happen at any moment when you decide that today matters just as much as yesterday. One of the most important shifts that helps people grow stronger with age is changing the way they see time. When we're young, time feels endless. We believe we have decades to try things, to fail, to start over. Later in life, something changes. Time begins to feel more precious. Each year feels more valuable. And, strangely enough, that awareness can make life more meaningful. Because when you realize that time is precious, you start paying attention to how you spend it. You become more intentional. You focus on the things that bring real joy instead of temporary distractions. You might begin choosing deeper conversations over small talk, meaningful hobbies over endless television, purposeful mornings instead of drifting through the day. In other words, awareness of time doesn't make life smaller. It makes it richer. Another powerful truth about aging is that independence is deeply connected to mindset. Many people assume independence only comes from physical strength. And while physical health certainly matters, the real foundation of independence is something else. It's the belief that you are still capable of learning something new, capable of solving problems, capable of adapting to change. When a person believes they are still capable, they behave differently. They remain curious. They remain engaged with the world. They keep trying things instead of quietly stepping away from them. And curiosity might be one of the greatest tools for staying mentally strong. Think about the way children explore the world. They ask questions constantly. They try things without fear of looking foolish. They experiment, they fail, they laugh, and they try again. Curiosity keeps the brain active. It keeps the spirit alive. And there is no age limit on curiosity. You can learn a new language at 70. You can start gardening at 75. You can learn how to use new technology, take online classes, explore photography, study history, write stories, or even begin a completely new hobby that you never had time for earlier in life. Every time you learn something new, your brain builds new connections. Your mind stays flexible. Your confidence grows. And confidence is another key ingredient of self-improvement in later years. Confidence in youth often comes from achievement, from career success, recognition, or accomplishments. But confidence later in life often comes from something deeper. It comes from knowing who you are. You've already faced difficult moments. You've survived loss, setbacks, disappointment, and change. You've adapted again and again throughout your life. That history builds a quiet strength. You may not always notice it, but it's there. The strength to handle uncertainty. The strength to keep moving forward. The strength to keep caring about the people and things that matter most. And when you recognize that strength, something interesting happens. You stop seeing aging as decline. You begin seeing it as evolution. Your priorities become clearer. Your relationships become more meaningful. Your choices become more intentional. Another important part of growing stronger with age is protecting your sense of purpose. Purpose doesn't have to mean a career or a big public achievement. Purpose simply means having a reason to wake up in the morning feeling that your presence matters. For some people, purpose is family. Being a mentor to grandchildren. Sharing stories, guidance, and love that only experience can provide. For others, purpose comes through creativity. Writing, painting, crafting, building, or creating something that expresses who they are. For many people, purpose appears through service, volunteering in the community, helping neighbors, supporting causes that make the world a little better. Purpose gives life direction, and direction creates energy. Without purpose, days can start to feel repetitive. Time can feel empty. But with purpose, even small activities become meaningful. A morning walk becomes a time for reflection. Cooking a meal becomes an act of care. A conversation becomes an opportunity to connect. Purpose doesn't have to be large to be powerful. Sometimes it's simply the decision to keep growing as a person. Another secret to staying motivated as we age is focusing on progress rather than perfection. Perfection can be exhausting. It creates pressure that makes people afraid to try new things. Progress is different. Progress simply means moving forward, even in small steps. Maybe today you read 10 pages of a book instead of none. Maybe you take a short walk instead of staying inside all day. Maybe you call a friend you haven't spoken to in months. These small actions seem simple, but they create momentum. And momentum builds motivation. Over time, those small choices shape the direction of your life. You begin to feel more engaged, more capable, more connected to the world around you. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to realize something that many people forget. Your story is still being written. The chapters behind you are filled with lessons, memories, and experiences that shaped who you are. But the chapters ahead still hold possibilities. New friendships, new interests, new moments of laughter, new moments of discovery. Growing stronger with age isn't about pretending that life doesn't change. Of course it changes. Bodies change. Circumstances change. The world itself changes. But strength isn't about resisting change. Strength is about adapting to it with courage and curiosity. When you stay curious, keep learning, maintain purpose, and take small steps forward each day, something powerful happens. You begin to feel alive in a way that has nothing to do with age. You begin to see each day as an opportunity rather than a countdown. And that perspective changes everything. Because the truth is, fulfillment isn't found in youth alone. Fulfillment is found in growth. And growth can continue for as long as you choose to keep moving forward. In the next part, we're going to explore something even more practical. The daily habits that help seniors stay mentally sharp, emotionally balanced, and motivated to keep building a meaningful life. Because growing stronger with age isn't just an idea. It's something you can practice every single day. When people talk about staying strong as they grow older, they often focus only on big life changes. But the real secret to a fulfilling and independent life isn't found in huge dramatic decisions. It's found in the quiet habits that shape your everyday life. The small things you do each day slowly become the foundation of your strength. Think about it for a moment. Every day begins the same way. The sun rises, the world wakes up, and you are given another opportunity to decide how that day will unfold. Many people believe motivation comes first, and then action follows. But in reality, it usually works the other way around. Action comes first, and motivation grows from it. This means you don't need to wake up feeling inspired to start improving your life. You only need to take one small step. One of the most powerful habits you can build as you age is starting the day with intention. When people retire or slow down from their professional careers, their daily structure often disappears. For decades, work schedules created natural routines. There were places to be, people to meet, tasks to complete. Without that structure, days can begin to blur together. But creating a simple morning routine can bring that sense of direction back into your life. It doesn't need to be complicated. In fact, the simpler it is, the more powerful it becomes. Imagine beginning the morning with a quiet moment of reflection. Maybe you sit near a window with a cup of coffee or tea. Maybe you step outside and feel the morning air. You give yourself 5 minutes to think about something positive, something you're grateful for, or something you want to accomplish today. This small pause sets the tone for the entire day. Instead of drifting into the day unconsciously, you enter it with awareness. Another important daily habit is movement. Now, movement doesn't mean pushing your body to extremes or trying to perform like a 20-year-old athlete. It simply means keeping your body active in ways that feel natural and enjoyable. The human body was designed to move, and even gentle movement can create enormous benefits. A daily walk through the neighborhood, stretching in the morning, light gardening, dancing to a favorite song in the living room. Even simple household activities can keep the body engaged. Movement improves circulation. It strengthens muscles. It supports balance and coordination. But beyond the physical benefits, it does something else that's equally important. It improves your mood. When the body moves, the mind often feels lighter. Stress softens, energy rises, and a sense of accomplishment appears, even from small efforts. Another daily habit that keeps the mind strong is learning. One of the greatest myths about aging is the belief that learning slows down or stops. But the brain remains capable of growth throughout life. Every time you learn something new, your mind becomes more flexible. You might read books that challenge your thinking. Listen to podcasts or educational programs. Try learning about history, science, art, or philosophy. Maybe you explore technology and discover new ways to connect with family and friends. Learning keeps curiosity alive. And curiosity is deeply connected to motivation. When you're curious, the world feels larger. Every day contains something new to explore. Another habit that strengthens emotional well-being is staying connected with people. Human beings are not meant to live in isolation. Connection brings meaning, laughter, understanding, and support. Sometimes, as the years pass, social circles change. Friends move away. Families become busy with their own responsibilities. Life transitions can create distance. But connection doesn't disappear unless we stop reaching for it. A simple phone call can brighten someone's entire day. A conversation with a neighbor can turn an ordinary afternoon into a memorable moment. Joining a community group, volunteering, or participating in local activities can open doors to new friendships. Even short interactions can create warmth and belonging. And belonging is one of the most powerful emotional strengths a person can have. Another habit that many people overlook is reflection. When life moves quickly, we rarely pause to think about what we've learned. But later in life, reflection can become one of the greatest tools for personal growth. You've lived through decades of experiences, successes, mistakes, surprises, unexpected turns. Taking time to reflect on those experiences allows you to understand them more deeply. Some people like to write their thoughts in a journal. Others simply sit quietly and think about what the day has taught them. Reflection transforms experience into wisdom, and wisdom is something the world desperately needs. Your perspective, your stories, your lessons. These are valuable not only for you, but for others as well. Another powerful habit that keeps life fulfilling is creativity. Creativity isn't limited to artists or musicians. It's a natural part of being human. Cooking a new recipe can be creative. Rearranging your living space can be creative. Writing letters, telling stories, painting, knitting, woodworking, photography, or even decorating your garden can all be forms of creativity. Creative activities allow the mind to express itself freely. They also create moments of joy that have nothing to do with productivity or pressure. Many people discover their creative side later in life because they finally have the time to explore it. And when they do, something remarkable happens. They begin to feel like explorers again. Another daily practice that strengthens independence is taking ownership of your decisions. Sometimes society sends subtle messages that older adults should step back and allow others to make decisions for them. But maintaining independence means staying involved in your own choices. Your opinions matter. Your preferences matter. Your voice still carries weight. Whether it's choosing how to spend your time, deciding which activities to pursue, or setting personal goals, staying actively involved in your own life reinforces confidence. Confidence grows each time you remind yourself that you are still the author of your story. Another habit that supports a fulfilling life is practicing gratitude. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring difficulties or pretending life is perfect. It simply means noticing the good things that exist alongside the challenges. Maybe it's the warmth of sunlight coming through the window, the sound of laughter from a grandchild, the comfort of a familiar song playing on the radio. When we focus only on what's missing, life can feel smaller. But when we notice what's present, life often feels richer. Gratitude gently shifts the mind toward appreciation rather than regret. And that shift can transform how each day feels. One more daily habit that many people underestimate is setting small goals. Goals give the mind something to work toward. They don't need to be huge or complicated. In fact, simple goals are often the most effective. Maybe you decide to read one book this month. Maybe you plan to organize a part of your home. Maybe you want to learn how to cook a new dish or start a small garden. These goals create a sense of forward movement. And forward movement keeps the spirit alive. The truth is, motivation isn't something that magically appears in the morning. It grows from the habits you practice each day. A moment of reflection, a short walk, a phone call to a friend, a new idea learned from a book, a creative project that brings a smile. These small actions build momentum. Over time, momentum builds strength, and strength builds independence. You begin to feel capable, engaged, and connected to the rhythm of life again. That's the real secret to growing stronger with age. It's not about competing with younger people. It's not about trying to relive the past. It's about continuing to evolve. Each day becomes an opportunity to learn something new, appreciate something simple, and move one step closer to the kind of life that feels meaningful to you. And when those habits become part of your routine, something powerful begins to happen. Life doesn't feel like it's slowing down. It feels like it's deepening. In the next part, we'll talk about something even more important: how to overcome the invisible barriers that sometimes appear later in life. The doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs that quietly hold many people back from living fully. Because once you learn how to break through those barriers, a whole new level of confidence and freedom can open up. As the years pass, most of the obstacles we face are no longer physical. They're invisible, quiet thoughts that appear in the mind and slowly begin to shape how we see ourselves. Sometimes those thoughts sound like this: maybe I'm too old to start something new. Maybe that opportunity is meant for younger people. Maybe it's better if I just stay where I am. These thoughts don't arrive loudly. They whisper. And over time, if we're not careful, they build invisible walls around our lives. But here's something important to remember. Many of those limitations are not real. They are beliefs that were repeated so often that they began to feel like facts. One of the greatest acts of self-improvement at any age is learning to question those beliefs. Just because something has been said for years doesn't make it true. Think about how many times society repeats the same message about aging. That energy fades, that curiosity disappears, that life becomes smaller and quieter. But if you look around the world, you'll quickly discover countless examples that prove the opposite. There are people in their 70s earning college degrees, people in their 80s traveling the world, people discovering new passions, new friendships, and new purposes long after retirement. So what separates those individuals from the ones who quietly step back from life? Often, it's not physical ability. It's mindset, the story they tell themselves about what is still possible. Your mind is incredibly powerful. It shapes how you interpret every experience. When you believe growth is still possible, you begin to notice opportunities instead of obstacles. When you believe learning is still possible, curiosity wakes up again. And when curiosity wakes up, life becomes interesting again. One of the most common mental barriers people face later in life is the fear of looking inexperienced. When we're young, we expect to be beginners. Nobody is surprised when a child struggles to learn a new skill. But later in life, many people feel embarrassed about being a beginner again. They think, I should already know how to do this. But being a beginner is not a weakness. It's actually a powerful position. Beginners are free to explore, free to experiment, free to make mistakes without pressure. Some of the happiest moments in life happen when we allow ourselves to be beginners again. Imagine trying something you've never done before. Maybe it's painting. Maybe it's learning a musical instrument. Maybe it's experimenting with photography or writing. At first, the results may not be perfect, but that's not the point. The point is the experience, the excitement of discovering something new. Every beginner carries a sense of possibility, and possibility is one of the most energizing feelings a human being can experience. Another invisible barrier that appears later in life is the weight of past regrets. Everyone carries some form of regret. Choices we wish we had made differently. Opportunities we didn't pursue. Words we wish we had spoken. But regret becomes heavy only when we keep staring backward. Your past contains lessons, but it does not control your future. You can't rewrite the chapters that already happened, but you can always write the next one. And sometimes, the next chapter becomes the most meaningful one because it is guided by wisdom. Wisdom changes the way you approach life. You become less interested in proving yourself to others and more interested in living authentically. You become less focused on competition and more focused on contribution. And contribution is one of the most powerful ways to find fulfillment. Many seniors discover a deep sense of purpose when they begin sharing their knowledge with others. You have lived through decades of experiences that younger generations have never seen. You've watched the world change. You've adapted to new technologies, new cultures, new challenges. Your insights carry value. Maybe you mentor someone younger in your community. Maybe you share advice with family members navigating their own life journeys. Maybe you simply listen with patience and understanding when someone needs guidance. Listening alone is a rare and powerful gift. In a world where everyone is rushing, the person who listens carefully becomes deeply respected. Another barrier that sometimes appears with age is the fear of change. Human beings naturally prefer familiarity. The routines we've known for years feel comfortable and predictable. But change is not the enemy of stability. Sometimes change is the very thing that brings new life into our routines. Trying a different walking route, rearranging your living space, exploring a new cafe in town, learning how to use a new app to connect with family. These small changes stimulate the mind. They remind you that the world is still full of discovery. Change doesn't mean abandoning everything familiar. It simply means allowing life to keep evolving. Another powerful way to break through mental barriers is through gratitude for your own resilience. Take a moment to think about the challenges you've already faced in your life. There were times when things seemed uncertain, moments when the road ahead felt unclear. Yet, somehow, you kept going. You adapted. You found solutions. You moved forward. That resilience didn't disappear with age. In fact, it has likely grown stronger. The difference now is that you carry decades of perspective. You know that difficulties come and go. You know that setbacks are temporary. And that knowledge can bring a quiet confidence. Confidence that life can still be meaningful. Confidence that new opportunities can still appear in unexpected places. Sometimes all it takes is one small decision to reopen the door to possibility. Maybe it's signing up for a class, joining a community group, volunteering at a local organization, or even starting a personal project you've been thinking about for years. One small step often leads to another, and soon, momentum begins to build again. Momentum creates energy. Energy creates motivation. And motivation reminds you that your life is still moving forward. Another important shift that helps break mental barriers is learning to celebrate progress instead of comparing yourself to others. Comparison is exhausting. When we compare ourselves to younger people, we sometimes forget that every stage of life carries different strengths. Youth may bring speed and energy, but age often brings patience, perspective, emotional intelligence, and depth of understanding. These qualities are incredibly valuable. They allow you to see the bigger picture. They allow you to appreciate moments that others might rush past. They allow you to guide, support, and inspire the people around you. Growing stronger with age means recognizing these strengths instead of overlooking them. It means honoring the person you've become, and it means allowing yourself to keep evolving without feeling restricted by the number of years you've lived. The truth is, the most limiting barriers in life are rarely physical. They are mental. And once you begin to question those limitations, something powerful happens. The walls begin to dissolve. Curiosity returns. Confidence grows. Possibilities reappear. Life begins to feel open again. You realize that growth didn't stop at 60, 70, or even 80. Growth simply changed its form. It became deeper, more intentional, more meaningful. And in the final part, we're going to explore how to turn that renewed confidence into a life filled with purpose, connection, and lasting fulfillment. Because the real goal of self-improvement isn't just becoming stronger. It's creating a life that feels rich, meaningful, and deeply worth living no matter what age you are. There comes a moment in many people's lives when they quietly ask themselves a question: what truly matters now? When we're younger, life often moves quickly. We're busy building careers, raising families, paying bills, and meeting responsibilities. Days blur into years, and years pass before we even realize how fast time has moved. But later in life, something begins to shift. The pace slows down just enough for reflection. You start noticing the small details more clearly. The sound of birds outside the window in the morning. The warmth of sunlight in the afternoon. The laughter of family members during a simple conversation. Moments that once seemed ordinary suddenly feel meaningful. And that's one of the hidden gifts of growing older. Perspective. You begin to understand that fulfillment doesn't come from rushing through life. It comes from being present inside it. For many seniors, the most powerful transformation happens when they stop measuring life by productivity and start measuring it by meaning. Meaning can appear in the simplest places. It might appear in the time you spend talking with a friend who needed someone to listen. It might appear in teaching a grandchild how to cook a favorite family recipe. It might appear in writing down stories from your past so that future generations can understand where they came from. Your life contains a treasure of experiences. Stories of resilience, stories of love, stories of lessons learned through trial and error. And those stories matter. They matter because younger generations are searching for guidance. They are navigating a fast-changing world filled with uncertainty. Your voice can become a steady source of wisdom. Sometimes, simply sharing your perspective can change someone's life. But purpose doesn't always need to involve other people. Sometimes purpose is deeply personal. It might come from creative expression, painting something that reflects your emotions, writing thoughts in a journal each morning, planting a garden and watching it slowly grow through the seasons. Purpose can also come from exploration. Just because you've lived many years doesn't mean you've seen everything the world has to offer. There are still books to discover, ideas to explore, places to visit, and conversations waiting to happen. Life continues to unfold as long as curiosity remains alive. One of the most beautiful truths about aging is that it allows you to become more authentic. When we're younger, we often worry about expectations. We wonder how others see us. We try to meet standards that society places in front of us. But as time passes, those pressures often fade. You begin to realize that life feels better when you live according to your own values. You choose relationships that feel genuine. You spend time on activities that truly interest you. You say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't. This authenticity creates a deep sense of peace. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself. Instead, you focus on living in alignment with who you truly are. Another important part of fulfillment is connection. Human beings are built for relationships. We thrive when we feel seen, understood, and appreciated. Even small connections can brighten life in powerful ways. A friendly conversation with a neighbor, a weekly call with a family member, a shared laugh with someone at a local cafe. These moments may seem ordinary, but they create warmth and belonging. And belonging gives life emotional richness. At the same time, solitude can also be meaningful when it is chosen intentionally. Quiet moments allow you to reflect, read, think, and reconnect with yourself. Balance between connection and solitude often creates a peaceful rhythm in daily life. As you grow older, another important realization often appears. You begin to understand that happiness isn't something that arrives one day and stays forever. Happiness is built from moments. A good conversation, a walk outside, a memory that brings a smile, a project that fills your afternoon with quiet satisfaction. When you begin noticing these moments, you realize something surprising. A fulfilling life isn't made from huge milestones alone. It's made from thousands of small experiences that create a sense of gratitude. Another powerful aspect of growing stronger with age is the ability to inspire others without even trying. Younger people watch how older adults live. They notice the calm patience you show during difficult situations. They observe how you handle setbacks with perspective. They listen carefully when you share stories about how you navigated life's challenges. Without realizing it, you become an example of resilience, of wisdom, of perseverance. Your life becomes proof that growth doesn't stop with age, and that example can give others hope for their own future. One day, someone younger may remember something you said years earlier, a piece of advice, a story about perseverance, a simple reminder to keep going even when life becomes difficult. Those words can stay with them for decades. That's the quiet power of experience. And perhaps one of the most meaningful things you can do at this stage of life is something very simple. Keep growing. Growth might look different now than it did decades ago. It may be slower. It may be quieter. It may be more reflective, but it is still growth. Each time you learn something new, your mind expands. Each time you help someone else, your heart expands. Each time you step outside your comfort zone, your confidence expands. The process never truly ends. Life continues to evolve as long as you remain open to it. So if there's one message to remember from everything we've talked about today, it's this. Your best years are not defined by your age. They are defined by your mindset. The moment you decide that growth, curiosity, and purpose still belong in your life, something powerful happens. Your days begin to feel meaningful again. You wake up with intention. You engage with the world around you. You appreciate the beauty in ordinary moments. And slowly, a deep sense of fulfillment begins to grow. Not because life is perfect, but because you are living it fully. So wherever you are in your journey right now, remember this: your story is not finished. There are still conversations waiting to happen, still ideas waiting to be explored, still memories waiting to be created. You are not simply aging. You are evolving, growing stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more aware of what truly matters. And when you continue moving forward with that mindset, life doesn't become smaller. It becomes deeper, richer, and more meaningful with every passing year. So keep learning, keep connecting, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep believing that the next chapter of your life can still be one of the most fulfilling chapters of all.